In his comeback. Yesterday, Larry and I sat down for a chat about his comeback and his career. Larry, I just have a feeling if George Foreman had not come back, that tonight you'd be sitting home in your favorite chair, watching Tuesday night fights, enjoying retirement, enjoying your family. What did you see in George Foreman's comeback that has brought you back?
Well, first I seen that if I was fighting the fight with Evander Holyfield that George was fighting, I would have been heavyweight champion of the world again. George Foreman showed that these young fighters out here really don't have anything. They take a lot of the other stuff outside of the boxing rings and try to put it in the boxing, and it don't work. George Foreman showed a lot, and George Foreman is just a big, strong guy that really don't have a whole lot, never really had a whole lot, only the punch. But he showed that these guys are not made out of anything.
You're talking about George Foreman in the ring. Is there anything out of the ring that has stuck with you about Foreman? Foreman was not a particularly popular fighter his first time around, and you as a champ, a reign of like 8 years, never really won the hearts of the fans. Do you see something there? Do you see a new window of opportunity on that end of the boxing game?
Well, yeah, you know, I always was a blue-collar fighter. You know, I fought for the people. George Foreman, he was the same way. Muhammad Ali, he fought for everybody. You know, he had the charisma, he had the gift of gab, and he brought a new light into boxing. And when he did it, it was hard for anybody to follow it, because if they did, they'd say, well, you're acting and sounding like Muhammad Ali. You couldn't be yourself, so it was hard. I was in a no-win situation, you know, because I was damn if I do and damn if I don't. Even when I fought Muhammad Ali, if I won, he was too old. If I lost, I never was nothing. But you know, hey, I won a lot of people over, in spite of my 2 losses to Michael Spinks, which I felt that both of the fights was questionable. I know the second one was really questionable. But I think I won a lot of people over, knowing that I was the fighter that I was, held the title for 7.5 years, as you said, and defended it with anyone and everyone who wanted to fight, as long as I was compensated. And that what made me the outstanding boxer that I was.
Well, what do you think the biggest mistake you ever made that you could admit to now?
The biggest mistake that I ever made was when I probably fought Michael Spinks, because I was warned, you know, if I would fight him and didn't take him out, I would lose. And that would happen. Even Don King even said it, you know. Don and I don't see eye to eye, but he warned me not to take the fight, and I insisted that I would. And we did, and I lost.
Foreman's comeback. Here's a guy who's maybe had an easier time coming back because of his style. Power, plotting. Now, when you were 7.5, 8 years as a champion, you did it on a lot of movement, on the jab, and age kind of robs the things that you have to do in the ring. Takes away the speed, the movement, and the reactions. Is this comeback for you, even though it's not as many years as Foreman, going to be more difficult because of your style in the ring?
I would say yes. I will not be doing a whole lot of movement or on the toes, circling around the ring. I will be doing a lot more punching for power to get these guys out of there. I think I can do it. I always had a decent punch. My record speaks for itself: 32 knockouts or 34 knockouts. So I forget exactly what it was. But you know, I'm not a slouch when it comes down to punching. Now I will settle down, and that's what I've been doing, working on punches to the body and punches to the head, good hard jabs and left hooks to the body and right hooks to the body. And seems to me this works very well, and that's what I'll be working on tomorrow night.
It's taken some time to get to that point. When you were champion, you actually preferred to box and to win. You had a lot of fights that went late and distance fights. Why had you not added that to the arsenal as a champion?
Well, I was being more careful not to get hit, trying to reserve my face, my energy, my head, my brains, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I didn't want to end up with as people say, scatterbrains. I wanted to get in the ring and out of the ring as I go in it. I just wanted to, live a clean life and not take any chances.
After a few fights down the road now, if you find out that, hey, I'm kidding myself with this, would you get out?
Most definitely. I'm secured. I want people to know that I'm very secured into my life and my family. I own a lot of things in Pennsylvania, as you probably know. I can sit back and collect the rent and live happily ever after. It's not every day that you get a fighter that owns and rents to the federal courthouse and owns their own jail cells in a national bank. So, I'm okay. I'm doing it because I see no competition out there. There's a little threat out there, but if I can overcome some of the things that I got to overcome, I think I can become that champion again. That's all I want to do. Try to regain the title. Once I got out of boxing, I really wasn't ready to get out of boxing, and so I want to try to turn the clock back a little bit and see what I can do. If I can't do it, I can at least say I gave it my all.
If you lose a fight along the way, will that be your last fight?
Definitely, most definitely be my last fight. It ain't no sense of me knocking on the door when there's no door is there. So I have nothing to prove. Boxing's been very good to me. I met a lot of people, and I got a chance to meet guys like you. And so boxing is very, very good.
You came back in April. You started to come back, and you took out Tim Anderson in one round. What did that fight tell you about yourself, and how far have you progressed in the 3 months since that time?
Well, in spite of all the confusion, in which I had a lot of it, dealing with the guys that I was dealing with, but what that fight told me, that I can do what I set out to do. I trained for that fight to take him down with body shots, and that's what I did. Jab and body shots. And as you notice, fighters don't do that anymore. They don't jab anymore. Everybody go for their head. And Joe Frazier and a lot of other great fighters told you kill the body and the head would die. And I'm finding that out because I was one of those young guys that all I did was shoot for the head. Every now and then was for the body. But now I think that body shot takes it all out of you.
Eddie Gonzales tonight should not pose a threat to you. What is this fight all about to you? What are you trying to accomplish in the ring tonight?
Getting myself back in the position to fight for a title. I hope Eddie Gonzales do not pose a threat for me, and if he does, then it just shows that I should get on out of the game. But I noticed Eddie's a little heavy around the midsection, and that's one of the things I'll be working on. If he can go 2, 3 rounds, 4 rounds with body shots that I'm going to be laying on him, more power to him. But that's exactly what I'll be going for.
Larry, how many fights do you think you have left in you? You have a specific timetable? Are you going for the one big payday, or you see a series of guys you would like to fight?
Well, I don't want to take the George Foreman route, 22 guys and then getting the chance to fight for the championship. I want to be able to get there as quick as I can. That's why I'm on a crash program. I'm fighting in another 11 days. I'm going to be fighting in Hawaii, and then another 11 or 12 days I hope to be fighting back down here again. So I'm going to take on maybe 2 or 3 good fights like this, and hope that I can get a Riddick bow, which I was offered a Riddick bow. But as soon as they put the right dollars up, then we can talk about it. But right now they're not negotiating seriously, and I hope they know. I hope they know that Larry Holmes is not broke. He's not desperate. I'm not running up the street for $50. I'm doing this because it's a lot of exposure on USA. I think it's a great network, and everybody watches it. I know I watches it every week. So if something comes my way, I look at it, but I'm not going to do things to make people happy. I got to do things to make me happy. Okay, now very quickly, in about a line or two, tell me what happens in these possible upcoming fights. First of all, Larry Holmes versus Evander Holyfield. Well, first, I think I will beat Evander because he's not a guy that's going to move away. I think I'm just as strong as he is, and I think maybe my stamina is better than his because he tires. He put punches together very well, but I still don't think he's a real heavyweight. I think I can beat Evander, and that's the fight that I would like to fight more than any fight. How soon? I'll be ready for Evander if I can get these 3 fights together in the end of November. Larry Holmes versus George Foreman. I'll box George Foreman. He's just a big guy. He's strong early, but after that 4 rounds, he's still same George Foreman. He tires, and you can hit him, and you get him out of there. Larry Holmes versus Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe is a boxer. He's young, he's tall, inexperienced. I will beat Riddick Bowe. Maybe take him out in the later rounds.
Larry Holmes versus Ray Mercer.
Ray Mercer will be an easier fight than a Riddick Bowe because he's a little shorter and he'll be easier to hit, and I don't really think he can take it.
Larry Holmes versus Tommy Morrison.
It would be like a Joe Frazier Muhammad Ali fight all over again. The guy's made for me. Anybody who's down in the crouch come forward is made for that left jab of mine, and all I have to do is back and let him come toward, and I would take him apart. And the thing about it, everybody knows this.
And there's one more here, Larry Holmes versus Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson is difficult for me because he's a puncher. He hits very hard. Even though he don't have the movement that he had before, the body, the head movement and whatnot, he comes straight and he gives it all he got for at least 5 or 6 rounds. And I need a lot of conditioning and developing, you know, my skills once again to beat a guy like Mike Tyson. But I feel that, you know, I can take him 6 or 7 rounds, I can get him.
I've named 6 possible opponents. There's no way you're going to face all 6. Will you try to pick out the ones you'd prefer, stay away from a Tyson? You ever see yourself fighting a Tyson again, or are you just going to go another route?
No, I can see myself fighting Tyson again if that opportunity came. But, you know, Don King and I are not seeing eye to eye, and I don't know if he will want me to get back in the ring again with Mike Tyson. But again, you know, money talks and bull stuff walks. So, you know, I don't know, business is business. But maybe that could happen. But if not, you know, I just keep going on. I mean, I'm not going to stop and wait for Mike Tyson or Don King or Vander Holyfield or anyone. You know, I set my time period until about the middle of next year. If I can't get it by then, I still put my gloves up and say the game has been good, so long.
Larry Holmes yesterday afternoon, and I guess if Larry could just avoid Mike Tyson, we may as well just give him the belt right here. But when you're talking to a fighter who is coming back, an older fighter here, a former champ, is he talking in the present or in the past?
In the past, Al. We all remember ourselves at our very best. We don't remember ourselves at 41 years old. We remember when we beat the Jerry Cooneys of the world, the Tim Witherspoons, the Carl the Truth Williams. We remember us at the top of our game. And at the top of his game, Larry Holmes would have beaten a lot of the top heavyweights today. But they have all grown up since then. Boxing has gone on without Larry Holmes.
So listening to Larry Holmes in that interview, do you think he is fooling himself by coming back at this point?
I don't think so, and I think he is still competitive with any of the top heavyweights. Whether he will regain the championship, that's another question. I think he definitely knows how to fight. The unfortunate thing in boxing is when you finally learn how to fight, the career is, you're too old to continue it on.
Well, Larry Holmes will start putting the money where the mouth is. When we return, he'll enter the ring of the sold-out ballroom at the Hyatt in Tampa, Florida on USA's Tuesday Night Fights. First event, Budweiser, the king of beer, in a scheduled 10-rounder. It's former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes, in a comeback bid, going up against the veteran Eddie Gonzales, in the crowd here anticipating their first glimpse of the former champion Larry Holmes. Al Albert along with the champ, Sean O'Grady. And Sean, we saw George Foreman in the early stages of his comeback. What are the indicators that you will be looking for in Larry Holmes that will tell you that he may be able to make something of this?
Well, the first thing to go out on an aging fighter is his speed and timing. They all say the same thing. I could see the punches coming, but I just couldn't quite get out of the way of them. Also, something that is of vital importance is his mental conditioning for this fight. Has Larry been affected by all the negative publicity?
Well, Larry Holmes is also making his adjustments, keeping that in mind. Don't expect the vintage strategy and style of Holmes, the moving in the boxing. Actually, he's trying to adjust to become a KO artist, taking that out of the pages of George Foreman's comeback. And Larry Holmes, in this fight, you'll be trying to put the punches to the body of Eddie Gonzales. In his first fight back, Larry Holmes knocked out Tim Anderson in 1 round, and he will try that again tonight against the hefty Gonzales, who represents a survivor. He's gone the distance in his last 9 fights, including distant fights against Riddick Bowe and Alex Garcia, 2 big punches.
And going into this fight tonight, Gonzales has higher aspirations than just surviving and making it a distant fight against Larry Holmes.
My plans are to move from side to side, make him work them legs of his, which I know he has not much of left. Is to make him work himself, get him tired, make him fight my fight, make him come to me, move side to side, jab, and combinations, get out, in and out, and with him, to make him work, make him use those legs.
The doorway in which Larry Holmes will pass through, making his entrance, and just like George Foreman before him, Holmes, the former champion, gaining a big crowd. It's a sellout here in Tampa, and a glimpse of a legend. The fans not knowing exactly how the legend will now perform at the age of 41 in the ring. He won the title in 1978 in an incredible fight, a war against Ken Norton. He reigned for over 7 years, 20 successful title defenses, and was one win away from Rocky Marciano's great record of 49-0 before he lost his title to Michael Spinks in 1985. Lost the rematch, then was out 2 years and came back against Mike Tyson. He says that was a mistake. He only had 2 months to work out for that and went right to the top. And now after 3 years out, and George Foreman paving the way, Larry Holmes comes back and tries to do it in a different direction. Taking some tune-up fights, he looks across at Eddie Gonzales. And what does Larry Holmes weigh in at the age of 41? Well, let's check out the Tums tail of the tape. Holmes at 6'3", 238 pounds. During most of his reign, he was around 218. For the fight against Tyson, he was 227. So 238. Holmes will take that now in his second comeback fight. He's no George Foreman, but at 238. And Gonzales at 249 has been on the Bigfoot Martin diet. He has ballooned up. Gonzales started his career as a cruiserweight. You see the big reach advantage. Larry Holmes, one thing he still brings in the ring is that great jab. Sean, how do you match them up on the blackboard?
For the former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes, shoot friendly fire upstairs. Use slow, playful punches to the head. Get Eddie blocking those punches, then stay low. Go underneath to the body. Stay downstairs, and you'll make this a short night. Your opponent, Eddie Gonzales, you know he'll come right after you, so use movement early. Aging fighters slow down, so increase your speed and come on strong and hard late. Remember, Eddie, the last thing that a fighter loses is his punch, so watch out for Larry's power.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alessi Promotions presents main event, 10 rounds, heavyweights. Your referee from Tampa, Florida is Max Parker Jr. Judges at ringside are Darrell Brown, Tom Brown, and Wilson Robinson. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing first in the red corner to my right, wearing black trunks, white trim, weighing 249 pounds, his professional record, 26 wins, 13 defeats, 1 draw with 15 knockouts from Houston, Texas, Eddie Gonzales. His opponent, wearing white trunks, red trim, weighing 238 pounds, pro record, 49 wins, 3 defeats, 35 knockouts. He hails from Easton, Pennsylvania, and is currently ranked number 9 by the World Boxing Council. Former heavyweight champion of the world, the Easton Assassin,
Larry Holmes working the psych game into the comeback. Max Parker Jr., the referee.
We're going to lose in the dressing room. From this point until the end bout, you obey all my commands. I wish you both luck. Touch gloves, come out, box on the belt.
This is the sight game, much like George Foreman. What Larry's trying to do is get Gonzales to come after him, because when you're a power puncher and you got your opponent running into your shots, it's easier to knock him out.
Well, what do you think of the shape of Larry Holmes?
I am really shocked at Larry for not being sweaty here in the opening round. He said he was going to start fast, but when you start fast on cold muscles, you're going to pull a muscle, maybe even get caught. Now, Eddie Gonzales is not known as a knockout puncher.
Larry Holmes made his first fight on this comeback in April, taking out Tim Anderson, who is actually a cruiserweight in one round. And Holmes is already ranked in the top 10 by the WBC, ranked number 9. When asked about that, Holmes says they were very generous. It took George Foreman 3 years before he was acknowledged in the top 10 by the rankings.
That's after his big win over Tim Anderson now. Actually, he's a fighter that hasn't been out 10 years like George Foreman was.
Believe it or not, Eddie Gonzales says after this fight, if he is not victorious, he will try to get back to the cruiserweight division, where he won 22 of his first 23 fights and was a marginal contender at that level. I asked him, how do you expect to do that, get down from 249 pounds, and he says hard work and slim face. But right now it is Holmes barreling, and he knows that Eddie Gonzales is not a threat to him, but he also knows that Eddie Gonzales has built a reputation as a survivor, and he has the crowd behind him chanting Eddie. So Larry Holmes looking to pick up more respect in the second time, or if you're keeping score the third time around, they're not getting it from this crowd at the outset. But Eddie Gonzales has gone the distance his last 9 fights, as we mentioned before, just a year ago with Riddick Bowe, a little before that Alex Garcia, who's certainly shown a pretty good wallop, as Blake Benton. And Gonzales, who has sparred with Tyson the last few fights, Erlen Norris in the past with Michael Spinks and Tony Tubbs and Pinkman Thomas. He is a professional heavyweight, but he can make a fighter look bad. We just have to look back last week. Everett Martin and Bone Crusher Smith. Martin had the reputation of being able to hang in there. Martin went the distance with Foreman, and at least Bone Crusher was able to take him out in the 8th, so that a little bit of a yardstick. You think Larry Holmes is using Gonzales as a yardstick against Riddick Bowe, who went 8-round distance with Gonzales? Definitely.
One of the things that a fighter, and we've seen a lot of them like Eddie Gonzales, what they do is they fight that circuit. They get beat this month, next month they'll be in Washington getting beat, the month after they go to Oregon or California, they get beat on that circuit. And what fighters on their way up try to do, if this guy goes the distance with Holmes, like he did with Bowe, somebody coming up is going to try to knock him out, then draw a correlation between the two.
Closing seconds of the first round. It is scheduled for 10. Larry Holmes, former champ, hearing it from his corner after round 1.
Safety first. Step to the side. Bang him in the ribs. Feint him with the jab. Feint him with the jab. Then let the right hand and left hook underneath.
Seconds out. We approach the second round.
Larry Holmes with a busy schedule ahead. He wants to fight in another 11 days in Hawaii, although that fight at this point is not set, and then come back in a couple of weeks and fight perhaps here in Florida again. He wants to get as much work in, and as you are seeing here, this looks like nothing more than just a workout for Holmes under the lights and in front of a crowd and a national TV audience.
Well, sure it is. You got to get back to learning, reacquainting yourself with how to win fights. Larry still has that terrific jab, though. If you take a look at Eddie Gonzales' right foot, it's pointed out at a perpendicular angle to his front foot. That's called your foot in the bucket. What that means to a heavyweight, if he can hit him with a left hook, Gonzales will go down.
And Holmes right now also working on different things. He says he's working on power. He knows at 41, the things to go first were the things that he needed. And he was a reigning champion for over 7 years. The mobility and the speed. He knows he still has the jab, but he's trying to work more on the power. Whether he'll have enough power against the heavyweights of this time remains to be seen.
And that is one thing that's really dangerous for him, because he in the past has been great at zeroing in on his opponent whenever he's ready to go. Sometimes it took 12, 15 rounds to get his opponent to a place where he could put him away. Now, if he's starting fast like he is here in this match, what's going to happen to him later in a fight? He's been a terrific, intelligent fighter in the past, but with burning himself out, so content on slugging with his opponent, that could be dangerous. He wants to fight like George Foreman, but he does not bring the power that Big George has.
George Foreman, of course, at this stage in his comeback, took tremendous criticism and flack from press, the media, fans who thought it was just a joke that he was coming back. And ironically, some of the people who were most vicious ended up joining forces with Foreman in big paydays. And because of Foreman going through that, I don't think Larry Holmes will get as much intense criticism from the people in-house in the business, because they see down the line a big money payday with a Foreman, and a lot of these people probably see it as an easy big payday.
And he's not fighting the competition. You know, George was fighting all cruiserweights. There's no question about this man, Eddie Gonzales. He's a heavyweight. In fact, if there were a super heavyweight division, he'd be in it.
Along with Bigfoot Martin. Final seconds of round number 2. Crowd here wants a little more action. It is round number 3. Larry Holmes now on his toes for the first time in this fight, closing in on Eddie Gonzales. Gonzales says he wants to get inside of Holmes to take away the jab. He has not done that to this point. He also wanted to move a lot, make Holmes work, get those old legs going, and take him into the later rounds when Holmes' legs will be gone. But so far, Holmes' legs haven't had to go anywhere in the first couple of rounds. Gonzales not moving Holmes around at all.
No, it's so frustrating to box a fighter like Gonzales. I mean, he's in there just to last. He doesn't want to get hit, not really win the fight. He just wants you to make you look bad.
And like he's done that to many fighters.
Very true, and he's like coming into this match without even a fight plan to win. Now, he did have a fight plan for this. Said he was going to use side-to-side movement, which we haven't seen, make Larry come to him, which has happened. And then he said he's going to make Larry use those old legs. Pushing with those punches, the power comes from your legs. You're bending those knees and driving with that canvas with your toes and your feet. Break down those legs.
Take a look at Larry Holmes at 6'3", 238 pounds. He says he's in better shape now. He feels in better shape than when he fought Mike Tyson back in January of 1988 and was taken out in 4 rounds. He said it was a mistake to fight Tyson cold, without a tune-up. Did not think he was properly trained. He actually was set up to fight Burt Cooper in a tune-up in January. Then the Tyson fight was moved up to January, and Foreman relates that it was put to him, either take the Tyson fight or not, and he did not want to blow the $3 million, and he took the Tyson fight. But he says he's at a better stage now than Tyson. And then you wonder how he came back and stepped in the ring against Tyson. Larry Holmes' wife, Diane, and his young son watching on at ringside, watching Larry Holmes embarking on the new career. Reigned for 7 years as a heavyweight champ. Only Joe Louis, who reigned for 12 years longer in a heavyweight division. How will this comeback affect Larry Holmes, his place in history? He says he doesn't think it'll affect what he's already done. This is just another chapter. Taking a look how far it could go. No question, the influence on Holmes' comeback is George Foreman's success. Closing seconds of round number 3. Gonzales surviving as we expected.
Before you.
Fourth round action. Eddie Gonzales on the left, Larry Holmes on the right. I don't think Gonzales is yet to land a punch in this fight. Sean, when you look out at Larry Holmes, what are some of the things you feel Holmes learned from watching Foreman's comeback that he will put into his presentation in the ring?
Well, you know, we already talked about the power, but something else that is of vital importance is yesterday he was talking to the media and going around meeting people, shaking hands. At this point, that's what he needs. That's what got Foreman the title fight with Evander Holyfield. All the people who wanted to see George get his shot. That was the big talk in boxing. Now he has taken that and is trying to use that for his own good. Larry gave a 3-hour interview yesterday.
Foreman just setting it up. Gonzales along the ropes, taking whatever is dished out. You know, Foreman, as we talked to Holmes about in the interview, Foreman was not exactly the most popular of champions in his first reigns. Amazing the 360 that he did, and Larry Holmes was never taken into the hearts of the boxing fans. There was certainly no adulation for him in a rough spot coming off of Muhammad Ali, and I think he sees another window of opportunity to win some hearts back, become the good guy. Certainly a personal man is Larry Holmes, and trying to take the opportunity of the spotlight and a quote legend coming back. Certainly admired for the task that he accomplished of 7 years reigning champion.
A couple of good right hands by Larry Holmes.
Lining up Eddie Gonzales here in the fourth.
And this is where Eddie's at his best. When he gets hit, he really concentrates on moving out of the way of his opponent's punches. Now, has Larry Holmes forgotten about that body? Nice big target down there, and it's easier to punch a guy in the body. You don't hurt your hands, especially when the body is like Eddie Gonzales. Gonzales, he is an expert at eating. Loves his mother-in-law's cooking. Dolores Romero cooks up that Mexican food down in San Antonio.
And that's the greatest compliment to Dolores.
Well, I'm hoping that we get down there to San Antonio so I can have some of that Mexican food. Maybe I'll come back as Eddie Gonzalez' opponent. If I eat enough.
Well, if you eat that, you'll be up to 249 in a hurry. Gonzales has been stopped only 4 times in his 40-fight career, has not been stopped in the last 3 years. That's what's standing in front of Larry Holmes. Holmes knew that. You know, Gonzales is a carefully selected opponent. We'll pause for our local stations. Fifth round action. Larry Holmes trying to turn it up quickly here against the fire plug Eddie Gonzales, who has the fans chanting for him. Gonzales at the age of 31, a record of 26-13-1 with 15 knockouts, but his last knockout came in 1984. And that was before he made his step into the heavyweight division. He was 22-1 as a cruiserweight.
And that was the last time that he fought in his home state of Texas. Ever since then, he's been on the road. So for him to be here, hearing this crowd chant, Eddie, 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 it's going to give him more confidence.
Very, very likable young man, and says if he wins this, well, maybe I'll stay in the heavyweight division. If he loses this, there's a major assault at the diet ahead. He says he'll try to get back down to cruiserweight. You're talking 190 pounds. That's 59 pounds to take off.
And what motivation to get you to win a fight. Stay at this weight.
That's right. He's dangling the best carrot in front of his face. Actually,
enchilada.
He said he was having problems getting down to keeping that cruiserweight weight. He had lost a 10-rounder to John Odhiambo, then was stopped in 4 by Marvin Johnson back in 1984, and was out of the ring for a few years and decided to come back as a heavy. But he has now been over around 240 and over for the last 3 fights going back to April of last year. It's going to be some chore to get down to 190. He's used to this weight now for the last year and a half.
You know, he's really deceiving too, because you see the belly around the midsection, the extra pounds, and you think this guy can't go the rounds, but he does have a lot of stamina. Real strong fighter. He comes from good bloodlines too. His father, former rated welterweight. Watching in from Houston, Texas tonight. Welterweight king, he beat Emil Griffith in a non-title fight in January of 1965. He lost a rematch with him for the title. Also, Curtis Koch, the same thing, non-title fight, he won. Manny Gonzales, the son just gets hit with a right hand.
Some crunching blows by Larry Holmes, and Eddie Gonzales shaking him all off.
Look at these little feints by Gonzales. Those are feinting Larry out of position. Now, Larry is a wonderful feinter himself. He usually controls with those feints and then that terrific left jab. But look at this man. He's got the crowd going, playing to the audience.
Eddie Gonzales, a moment in the sun.
You are on a stage in that ring, and every moment that you use up there is yours.
The guy is kind of dead tired. He's dead tired.
They're telling him that Larry Holmes is tired. All that next week, right here on USA's Tuesday Night Fights. Well, do you agree with Eddie Gonzales' corner? Is Larry Holmes getting tired as he moves into the second half of the scheduled 10-rounder?
He is definitely tired. There is no question about that. But when fighters are in shape, they get that second win earlier, and then they can go all night. Everybody's going to get tired. You get tired in every fight you ever have. But the better shape you're in, the more that you get that second win, the earlier you get it.
Well, this is where Eddie Gonzales, average-wise, ends the fight, but I don't think he'll come in on the average tonight. It has been all Larry Holmes.
Eddie Holmes.
The only thing that Gonzales has won so far is the crowd. Could you imagine if we matched up Eddie Gonzales against Bigfoot Martin and told them you fight until the end? How many rounds do you think that thing will go?
You know something where matchmakers get in trouble is they put a turkey with an eagle. If they match 2 eagles together, it's a great fight, but that's an obvious fight. And most of the time, almost all the time, you match the 2 turkeys together and it's a good fight. The one doesn't want the other one to show him up.
Not calling Eddie Gonzales a turkey.
No, not at 230 and 249 pounds. I'm not. He's got lots of guts. I'll tell you that. They're all hanging right over his belt line there.
Halfway through the 6th.
I say that, and he does have a lot of guts. I mean, to get in the ring with Larry Holmes, who is a former heavyweight champion of the world, you have a lot to lose.
We talked to Eddie Gonzales about that before the fight, and he was kind of golly gee whiz in awe of the man he was stepping in the ring with. But
well, he's a pro. He's been around. He has lost before. He's been beaten before. He's gone the distance before. He's been knocked out. He's been through it all. Raised around this fight game from his father, Manny. Raised in the gyms. He knows how to fight. Nothing new. It's a shame you couldn't take Eddie Gonzales' experience and give it to the young Obakar. By the time fighters get the experience they need, their careers are over. That's why you have to rely on the old men in the corner, the men who have been there, the men who have been through it. They can tell you how to win these fights.
Something Bobby Ches told us Friday in Atlantic City. He says it's taken him 10 years to relax in the ring and know how to fight. Fortunately for Bobby Ches, he's still just 29. Final 10 seconds of the 6th round.
This is where Eddie Gonzales wanted to take Larry Holmes. Let's see if he'll come on.
And we move into the 7th round. On his toes is Larry Holmes. His first comeback in April. First round knockout over Doc Anderson. Now he's looking to turn up the heat This is where Bone Crusher Smith turned up the heat against Everett Bigfoot Martin last week. You're Larry Holmes now. How do you think you're grading out this performance?
Well, right now, in seeing him go back to his corner, he's a little frustrated that he's not been able to put out Eddie Gonzales, but many men have tried that in the past and they've failed. Right now he's got to throw that out the window. As far as how he looks, well, he still knows how to fight. He's got the experience. He's got that beautiful left jab, you know, and the terrific strategy. I mean, he's really smart. He's thinking inside the ring in complete control. I think, though, that now what we're going to see from Larry Holmes, we're going to see a change between this fight and his next fight out. Next fight, he'll go back to the old Larry Holmes that was wise and smart, that would pick his opponent apart if it took him, you know, 8 rounds or 10 rounds.
But he has to have the legs
rounds
to be able to do that.
Very true.
He may never get those legs back.
And that's why his comeback may never be successful. The first thing that goes on a fighter is his speed and his timing. Second are those legs.
By watching Holmes in this fight, can you make a projection on whether he may be successful in this comeback, or is this just too early to get into that?
Are we talking about successful as far as becoming the heavyweight champion of the world
to fight
again?
the guys he wants to fight eventually?
No, I think what has happened in boxing since he's retired, all these young fighters have come up there, a couple of good left jabs from Gonzales. All the young fighters have taken the place of the older fighters. It happens in nature, it happens in life, it happens in sports, and it happens in boxing. Now with the new breed, that's where he's going to feel really, really old. Against the Eddie Gonzaleses of the world and the Everett Bigfoot Martins, he'll look great, he'll look fine. But when he goes up against the younger fighters, that's where he's really going to look slow.
And again, Gonzales gets in. He's been most effective, and Holmes comes back, and Holmes, not appreciating the shots by Gonzales, goes a little low with that left hand.
You've got to take control. I can see the shots coming, but I just can't get out of the way. You see him watching the shots, and he just doesn't move quick enough, Larry Holmes.
Gonzales just sitting there in the corner, trying a little shift from side to side. Holmes went into this fight knowing that Gonzales was a type of fighter that not going to make you look good. And that matter, you give credit for Larry Holmes to take a fighter of that nature.
An example of sparring partner syndrome that we've talked about. Now, Eddie's been sparring with Orland Norris, preparing him for an upcoming fight, and he's got that sparring partner syndrome.
Heavyweights.
It is round number 8. Larry Holmes in his second fight in his comeback, going up against Eddie Gonzales. Gonzales getting his best shots in the 7th, and he got words of encouragement from his corner, Melvin Dennis, in between rounds.
2 rounds left. Fight these 2 rounds, okay? Generate offense, okay? All right, come on. Slip them punches, hit him to the body, man. Okay? Hit him to the head, jab him. When you stick the jab, throw the right hand. He's wide open for it.
Let that right
okay?
Throw that right hand.
Throw your right hand. Let your right hand go, man, okay?
Right hand. When you hit
look, you got 2 rounds to go. Fight. Generate an offense, okay? You go on offense.
That was Melvin Dennis in the corner of Gonzales, a Houston middleweight back in the late 70s and early 80s. He had a record of 115 wins, 10 losses, 55 KOs, got up at one time to number 6 in the world. What they want is the right hand. They know Larry is winded. They know Larry is tired. Throw that right hand. Look at the left hand of Larry down by his waist. All defense from Eddie Gonzales, and Larry desperately trying for that knockout, trying for the home run ball. And you know something? 41 years old, here we are in the 8th round, he still looks good. He's throwing hard punches.
But it's a fight he has never been tested. He has been all offense, he has been in control, so he's really never had to contend against an opponent's offense in this fight. And you talked about the sparring partner syndrome, and Larry Holmes very carefully, as you might imagine, picking opponents earlier. Why not pick a sparring partner? That's what he did.
And what happens when you get a fighter who has that sparring partner syndrome is they work the circuit only as a sparring partner. Now, you're paid anywhere from $500 to $2,000 a week to be a sparring partner, and your job is to be a heavy bag for your opponent. Your opponent will unload on you, and you're paid to take that punishment and try to roll with the punches, learn how to stay out of the way of the hard shots. You start winning those sparring contests, your $2,000 a week is quickly going to come to an end.
Larry Holmes, of course, started as one of the top sparring partners for Muhammad Ali, but he was then giving Ali a tougher time than opponents were giving Ali, and that's how he embarked in his pro career.
Normally what happens with sparring partners, their careers are virtually over, except for this man, Larry Holmes, who went on to have a good career. Well, Larry Holmes was saying, knock this towel off my shoulder.
My right rib got cramped. My right rib.
So some problems developing for Larry Holmes. What does that all mean, Sean?
Well, when you age, your muscles start cramping too. Right there, he said it was his right rib, but those muscles over there are tightening up. Also, you got to take into consideration he's getting hit over there. Now, your body is losing an awful lot of fluid, a lot of weight, and it's pulling it right out. You have what is called a stitch. Takes it right out of your liver.
Now, what happens if he gets another cramp while he's fighting the last 2 rounds?
You know something? If Eddie Gonzales knew the cramp over there on the right side, he could zero in on that right side and try to make Larry Holmes fold over. But Larry Holmes is not one to fold over. I saw Jerry Cooney plant a left hook to the body in the middle of his body in Larry's midsection, and he continued on.
Larry Holmes has been down just 3 times in his 52-fight career. Last time to Tyson, also to Ernie Shavers and Ronaldo Snipes, the men who have knocked down Larry Holmes. Holmes is going after his 50th victory. He was hoping he would have accomplished number 50 before defeat, but was derailed by Michael Spinks in the first of 2 controversial fights. Holmes is certainly getting the workout that he is needed to help dust the cobwebs off of 3 years of retirement. The crowd again behind Eddie Gonzales. Larry Holmes coming back, trying to also pick up the adulation of the fans. It's not happening here tonight, but he's the prohibitive favorite. He's the heavy in this one, although hard to call him a heavy when you see Gonzales at 249, but certainly talking in different terms. But that happened to Foreman early. It took Foreman fights along the way to finally win the crowd over, but he came in the same situation and more of a prohibitive favorite than some of the fighters he fought in the first few fights in the comeback. Well, actually, you go more than the first few for George.
And you have to take a look at the overall picture. This is still only Larry Holmes' 2nd fight back. He still wants to take this a while. He's not ready just to live off this win, provided he wins here tonight.
And that's the end of round number 9. Gonzales feels that he is on his way to a moral victory in this fight against former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes as they'll move into a 10th and final round. I'm Al Albert along with the champ Sean O'Grady in Tampa, and this is our main event, stretching a little longer past the hour of 11 on the East Coast, and of course we will stay with this to the conclusion. Larry Holmes in his 2nd comeback fight. He drilled Doc Anderson several months ago in April in the first round to end that one quickly, and tonight he knew he was in against the survivor and Eddie Gonzales, and he's getting just what he expected going into the 10th and final round.
Keep the stick in his face. Don't get careless.
Final round.
Is Larry Holmes at this point, coming into the last 3 minutes, know that it's useless to even think of taking Gonzales out tonight.
Well, you know something? I don't think he's thinking that. I think right here he's thinking, hey, if I can just get this one shot off him, I know this fight will be over. Now, Larry is dangerous in the last few rounds, and he knows it. But in the past, he's not been that one knockout punch artist like he was, like George Foreman was. He's been able to catch his opponent at the right time. Then with a flurry of punches, the referee steps in and stops him. Although I have seen him knock people out and stand them on their nose, too.
Holmes says he's about 75% where he once was in his prime. How would you grade out the once fabulous jab?
I think that is still as fabulous as it was. It's not as quick and it's not as sharp, but he knows to use it. Something that fighters, young fighters today, don't know. It's a shame that Oba doesn't have the experience of Gonzales, but it's also a shame that he doesn't have the jab of Larry Holmes. Larry's got one of the greatest jabs in boxing, perhaps the last of the great jabs from Holmes.
And we have some boos from the crowd here in Tampa. But Larry Holmes knew this would be a possible ugly fight. He knows what stage he's at right now. And I don't think he'd be too greatly disappointed in the 10 rounds that he's put in. Although it's certainly not one of the magical fights in heavyweight history.
Now, what is going to be interesting if we get a chance to follow the career of Larry Holmes like we did with Foreman is what can he learn from this fight that he can change for the next fight? Something else that older fighters have a real problem with is changing. What can they do new? What can they do better? Some of them want to live off the past, and the fighters of today are not the same ones that were around 10 years ago. Or they have improved over 10 years, while a dormant fighter has not.
Larry Holmes, the pursuer, through 10 rounds. Eddie Gonzales is looking to survive. Very little offense from Gonzales in the fight. His best round was the 7th when he got a couple of shots in against Holmes. And it's Larry Holmes looking to bang out the final 10 seconds. It'll be important for him to look good in the closing seconds. So he had something left. And that is it. And that's a dilemma Larry Holmes will face now. The crowd expecting to see vintage Holmes, and he is far from that. 41 years old, 3 years out of retirement, and this is just the early stage of his comeback, and he will have to make the decision whether the comeback goes beyond an early stage. We'll be back with a decision and talk to Larry Holmes.
Nina, I love you.
When we return
Love
on
you, Eddie,
USA's
Michael,
Tuesday
Melissa.
Night Fights.
I did it.
Ready for the decision. Here's Mark Biro.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. All 3 judges at ringside have turned in perfect scores. Wilson Robinson, Frank Skilbred, and Darrell Brown of 100 to 90. The winner, former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes.
Exactly what he had to in getting 10 rounds, 30 minutes of work in this his second fight in his comeback. Larry Holmes is the winner. He goes to 50-3. And we will be talking to the former heavyweight champ shortly. But first, it is now time, with his arms raised in victory, a 10-round unanimous decision. over Eddie Gonzales. 30 minutes of work for Larry Holmes, and the former champ is with us right now.
Just a reminder, 2 more 6-round
Larry,
fights.
you knew this would be an ugly fight.
Oh yeah, that's what I told Brad when he asked me to get opponent, and he was getting me a lot of punches, and I said, no way. And then I said, Eddie Garcia, I said, he'll go the distance because he's a survivor. The guy just fought in May. And hey, you know, this is my first fight since I fought Mike Tyson.
You said you're working on changing the style away from the finesse because of the age, trying to work in more power. How do you measure where your power is against a guy like Gonzales?
Well, my power was good, but Eddie is a very cagey fighter. You know, he was catching a lot. All the fat that he had, my arm was going into him, but we really wasn't doing a whole lot of damage to him. But we hurt him several times in there. But the guy was in there to survive, and that's what happened.
Did you start too fast in this match?
Yeah, you know, been off 3 years for respect, and that's what I'm going to do with all my fights. It's only a 10-round fight.
Also, you had cramps late in this fight.
Yes.
Is that because of age?
No, that's because I was drinking water in between rounds. I mean, you know, I'm not going to let nobody make me old. I'm 41 years old, sure enough, but I'm not an old 41. I'm a young 41. You know, like most fighters are 41, 42, 43, and they still at it, you know. But they don't have the ability that I have. My jab was pretty well. My legs are feeling pretty good. I was up and down when I wanted to, and I was punching good. So hey, I'm not dissatisfied with myself. If I were, I'd say heck with the other fights and go and call it in.
How do you grade yourself on the performance?
Considering the guy I had, you know, it had to be about a 5. Considering the guy I had.
Now, what is your feeling about the reaction from the crowd? You know where you are at this stage, but the crowd here, and when you go around and fight other fights, are expecting Larry Holmes, heavyweight champion of the world, vintage champion.
The crowd is layman. They don't know boxing. They just know when somebody get knocked down, somebody get up, somebody wins, somebody lose. They don't know what a fighter's got to go through to get into shape. You know, hey, this guy was out there to survive. Just like any one of these people out here would have gotten in the ring today, they'd have got in there to survive and try to go the distance. And this is what Eddie did. I'm not going to let people get me down. Hey, they got me down all my life, ever since I've been boxing. Don't forget the critics said Larry Holmes would never become the heavyweight champion of the world. And I held that position for 7.5 years. Didn't duck nobody, fought them all. And that's what I'm continuing to do. George Foreman fought 22 guys that Eddie Garcia beat. So what that say for George Foreman?
All right, Larry, I wonder if you just step forward with me for a second. We have somebody who wants to come in and meet you here, and wonder if you have some words for this young man.
This is the gorilla, and it sure look like him. I know everybody back home is looking at this guy. You know, I wish this guy the best. You know, I hope he comes out of the shell that he's in with the people. You know, they down on him too, you know. So, you know, he's got to prove that he's the champion, you know. Take it and leave it, you know. Let people say what they want to say. He just got to prove that he's innocent.
All right, someday you may be seeing these two once again in the ring. Larry Holmes victorious tonight in 10 rounds over Eddie Gonzales. Bride is Sergey Artemiev, who had